Hey everyone, welcome to our session today at the Kentico Experience Connection Conference. My name is Brian McKeever. I am co-owner and Kentico Experience MVP at BizStream. We're a Kentico Experience Gold partner for many years. I'm really happy today to have you at our session, which is actually titled AI-Powered Cloud Search with Xperience and Azure Cognitive Search. I'm super lucky to be joined by Liam, so I'm going to let Liam introduce himself. Liam, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here as well. I'm Liam Kavanagh. I am a program manager here at Microsoft. I manage the Azure Cognitive Search technology, which will be a part of what we're talking to today. And so, yeah, super excited to be here and looking forward to chatting a little bit more about the experience.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join us and to present to the kind of global Kentico Experience community. There's a great opportunity with Kentico Experience and Azure Cognitive Search. The technologies integrate together pretty much just directly, and I think it's an amazing step up over other search options that you have when building websites. So, if you're new to either Kentico Experience or Azure Cognitive Search, you may have some questions like, okay, why are we here today? What are we talking about? And you may be really curious about what Azure Cognitive Search is and the different services and options that it has. So maybe Liam, could you introduce the technology and tell us, why it's amazing and why people should be on the lookout for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. So we started this service. It's one of our what we call platform as a service technologies within the Azure cloud environment. And we started this service because we started learning how important search was as a mechanism to allow people to search and explore their content. But what we started seeing and we started hearing from our customers that were moving to the cloud is that, although search is really important, it's also something that can be very challenging to set up, manage, deal with different scale aspects, making it available in different regions. All of those things are not easy. And so we took that feedback and we said, hey, what can we do to make this a little bit simpler? And so that's where we came up with Azure Cognitive Search. Once again, platform as a service, so we take care of all the management aspects. So if you all of a sudden have a really popular need or a lot of users searching over that site, well, it's very easy to scale it up, scale it down, add more content, do all those things, make it available in regions around the world, all those things in a very simple way. So we started out, and that was our main advantage. But then we started learning as we were talking more and more with customers is that within Microsoft, we have a lot of assets where we can bring in value on top of what you would see in just normal core search. And I think we're going to talk about some of the AI things a little bit later on today. But just to give you an idea, even through Bing, there is a huge amount of work that's being done to understand language and to just be able to understand content that are assets that we can bring in. We have a lot of work being done in Microsoft Research, not only in search, but in AI that adds a lot of value on top as well. So all of those things are things that we can add on top that we think make search even better. And then finally, one of the big things that we've really tried to do over the last little while is focus very much on security. We at Microsoft are getting a lot of customers bringing really important data to the cloud. And so it's important to have an environment where you can put that data and feel safe about it. And so we have many things like encryption. In fact, we have double encryption. We have the ability to put your data into virtual networks if you want to really secure it. Full authentication. All those things that you would expect to be able to secure and make sure that your data is, in a place that you feel comfortable about. And literally, we serve billions and billions of documents every day. So it's scalable. It's being used by organizations around the world, which I think is a real advantage for people to look at when they're using search.
Yeah, fantastic introduction. I think there's 2 points that I maybe want to ask you a follow-up question on. And you said that the data and the content around search. I think that's important for people to know that one of the real strengths of any content management system or digital experience platform is having a structured content model and having the ability to serve people what they're looking for. So maybe could you give us a little bit on, when you create an index and you want to have content of your website, you've got products, you've got articles, you've got homepage, you've got random things that you have to kind of sort through and look at, and I think that's an advantage that Azure Cognitive Search has, is it really handles strongly typed data really well, and that's a strength of Kentico Xperience as a platform.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think you really hit the nail on the head there, is that, in order to have a really great search experience, you have to build the structure from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at content, there's already some of our original data can be in a structured format, but even in cases where it's coming from a structured store, a lot of our data is textual, right? So if you look at that data, even within that textual data, there is even a lot of knowledge and information that we can extract that can really understand it even more. And so one of the things that we have at Microsoft that we've integrated in our product is things like our cognitive services that allow us to really look at that original content and try to extract out meaning from it, extract out knowledge. Like, what are those key phrases that are referred to in this content? What are these entities, people, organizations, locations that are described in that content? All can be added to this to add even more structure. And that is a great experience and a great reason why adding that, or expanding it, allows us to do even more in this experience.
Right. And then the second point I want to go back to a little bit is performance. And I want to tell you, all who are watching this session, when the very first time I ever used this technology, I was like, how in the world can it be something that is fast enough when I have to call out to the Azure cloud and watch for a REST API or different APIs to come back and return me data and present that on a page that I'm trying to render from my instance of an Azure App Service or even an on-prem IaaS server? How is that fast? And then I implemented the SDKs that the Azure Search team has made available, and I couldn't believe actually how fast it was. And that's the thing that really kind of made me super interested in the technology, and now I've used it for a couple of years, is just the literal performance of, I type words and I get search results back almost immediately from a user standpoint.
Yeah, and that goes back to this whole platform aspect as well, because being able to set these up and really scale them for performance is not always a simple thing. And to give you a couple of ideas of things that we do, is that when we have our search index, we have to definitely store that, persist that information. But what we can do is, as people are searching, as people are interacting with it, we can start to optimize it, bring it into memory, bring it into places, into caches, so that we can really serve up those requests really, really quickly. We've also implemented various different capabilities, so that, for example, if you're typing into that search box and you want to get some suggestions that come back, we have a very specialized API that allows us to take those and quickly look up potential matches and bring them back. So there's a lot of different things that we can build into that search experience that we can try to make so developers, other people that are trying to integrate this into the solution, can do it in hopefully a very simple and, as you say, performant way.
Yeah. So for those of you listening who are Kentico Xperience website owners or even Kentico Xperience developers, that's a key fact I want you to take away from this session, is that by using the integration that Kentico Xperience has with Azure Cognitive Search, you can actually offload the processing away from your website and leverage the benefit of cloud computing. That's kind of why we called the session AI-powered cloud search. It's an advantage over using the built-in smart search that comes with Kentico. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But as we've kind of set up this discussion, we've talked about how there's the knowledge graph around content and the performance, and doing that by hand and manually would be tough. And I think that's where the AI portion comes into this a little bit. So Liam, could you maybe, educate our viewers, if you're not sure, like, what does it mean when we say AI powered search? I think we should spend a little bit of time on that too.
Yeah, that's great, and this will actually lead into some of the not only the things that we're doing today, but some of the things that we're adding and we're actually putting to preview in just a matter of weeks, really. And so I talked about one aspect, which is as you're bringing the content into the search service, there is that aspect of AI to really understand that information, extract more meaning, so that the search service can make more and better use of it. But another key area that is not always obvious from the start until you start implementing this and people start using it is AI from the search query side. So, for example, in the traditional, or I'll say the old days of search, what would happen is that you would put into a search box a word, and it would probably handle, maybe some different forms of that word. So if I put running, it might understand run or runner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So different slight variations of the word to say, oh, okay, here's a potential match for it. And that was fine, and that worked quite well for a lot of cases. But as we've seen, as we go to search engines like Google and Bing, is that it's gone beyond that. It really understands context. It understands my intent. Am I asking a question? Am I trying to look at a very specific document? So what we're finding from AI is it's really important as the data, as the user is interacting, to be able to look at that, understand it, and then map it to what's really relevant. Like just a very simple example. Imagine I put into a search box, the word hot dog. You know, in that case, we all know I'm thinking about food, right?
Yep.
That
Yep.
makes sense. But if you look at a traditional search engine, it would say dog. Oh, I might know that means puppy, right? Or a variation. So all of a sudden, if it shows me results that has cute puppies, that makes no sense at all. And so
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing is we're looking at ways that we can leverage AI so that it can not only understand the words that are coming in, all the different semantic variations to those words to find content, but it understands the context. So that if I put in hot dog, it's going to know that I'm probably meaning more of a food item or maybe fast food or something relevant to that. And those are assets, once again, through things like Bing, where there is a lot of ranking knowledge, a lot of work being done to create knowledge that we can bring in. So those are things that we are currently adding to make it even easier and more smart through AI.
Fantastic, fantastic. One of my favorite examples is maybe one of the newer features that's been updated recently, according to what I've kind of seen on some articles this last couple of weeks, is the computer vision aspect of how the platform can recognize imagery. And I've heard that that's improved quite a bit in this last couple, I don't know, release, I guess would be the way to say it, where, if you're a digital marketer and your website contains a ton of images that display certain attributes that go along with the written words that we've been talking about so far, there's a way to enrich the search pipeline to know about, okay, I have a picture of a woman wearing a raincoat or carrying an umbrella, and that can be included into some of the assets that are searched, or just the general experience of providing search results. So it's not just content on the web page, but actually the images that go with it, and maybe other things like PDF attachments or Word documents. And I've seen how the technology can look into those things and include those words, include what it can see about images, and I think that's where it takes it to kind of the next level.
Yeah, imagery is a really interesting aspect because there's a lot of different areas where this can really apply to search. So, for example, in exactly what you're saying, if I'm bringing an image through some of our vision capabilities, it can describe what's in that image. This is a girl playing basketball with a mountain in the background. That is extra knowledge, extra textual information that the search engine can use, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to filter down on images with mountains in it, then I can do that because it was found in that image. You could even do training. Like, for example, maybe you had logos that you wanted to be able to detect, right? So you can train the system that here are some examples of this logo, and it will learn from it so that it can extract that information. And one of the other things that it's leading to is our ability to then say, hey, search engine, here is an image. Can you find me a document or an image that looks very similar to it visually? So it can actually then take user input. So rather than a search query where you're putting in words, you're actually putting in potentially an image. I just took a picture. Show me something that is similar to that. All of that becomes possible through this ability to use AI and its ability to understand not only images, but what's within that image as well.
Yeah. And again, those are all things that Azure Cognitive Search can do with the set of cognitive services that it has that you can attach to it.
Right.
You can even make your own custom skills and abilities to add to the pipeline as well. That's what impresses me about the technology is you can actually pretty much hone it into exactly what you need to do. And you can extend it if you're a developer who's listening and do some fun things with the APIs that Microsoft makes available to us. So, I think that the only other thing I want to mention is that there's also a ton of help as a developer in the Kentico experience or just in the .NET world around getting started with Azure Cognitive Search. And I don't know, Liam, is there anything new that you can mention that came out of like recent events like Ignite or anything to get developers excited who may be watching?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that we have seen is, and I kind of gave a little hint to that earlier, is the integration of some of these Bing assets. Being able to take the knowledge that Bing has aggregated, it's crawling the web, right? Like there's a lot of data, a lot of text, a lot of information that it can crunch to really understand different pieces of information. And that creates something called the Bing ranker. Mm-hmm. And so what we're looking to do, and we're partnering with Bing, is adding this as that layer so that when people are searching, remember I gave you that example of hot dog, we can just ask the Bing ranker, tell us what you know about that so that we can build out a much more effective query than just trying to take those words. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing that we have that we're adding. But there's also a lot of machine learning capabilities that we have added recently as well. So for example, some of the things that we can do is using something called reinforcement learning, where as users are interacting with the service, as people are querying it, we can start learning from what's happening. And what are they looking at? What are they clicking at? And use that reinforcement learning to learn different aspects. Was it a good result? Was it a bad result? Is there anything about that user that I can determine to help me predict whether they're going to like a search result the next time they come in or next time a similar user comes in? So all of that AI can then use what's called feedback loops where information is constantly flowing in. So numerous different ways of applying AI that I'm really excited about that are coming into this system as well.
It's fantastic. That plays a lot right along with the Kentico Xperience digital platform play of, we're crafting personalized content, we're tracking activity of what contacts are doing on the site, and maybe there's a future where we fully integrate even the activities and the like little micro activities and details that every single visitor is doing on the website, not just to personalize the content, but to just I maybe automatically push that right to Azure Cognitive Search and personalize the search results too. And that's kind of like the last topic that we really want to cover today with some of our time is if you're not familiar with what's in there with Xperience and Azure Cognitive Search, well, the rest of this conversation is for you.
Yeah. And Brian, I wonder, can you tell me in your experience how you have seen implementations where you've actually had the integration of Kentico Xperience with Cognitive Search? I wonder if you could talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, fantastic. So we have done that multiple times with my team and with my client base. And I know there's lots of partners out there in the Kentico Xperience world who have done this too, because of the simple fact that there really is kind of a class A integration or really, top level integration that's directly in the box with Kentico Xperience. So you go right to the Kentico menu, you type search, and you bring up the search aspect of the Kentico system. And within Xperience, there's two types of indexes. There's the regular Smart Search Index, which has been in the product for many, many years. It does a decent job of things. It's based off of Lucene if you're a technical person, and it's part of the website. But there's also right there, right in the same spot, without any other add-ons, plugins, or customizations, Azure Search Index capabilities that if you provision the resource in Azure Cognitive Search, and you give it the search index name and the query keys and the right setup to talk to the search API, Kentico gives you that ability right there on those screens. And then each of your page types in the content models have a search fields tab that you can configure from an Azure Search Index standpoint, that this field of your content model is searchable, tokenizable, facetable, all the standard stuff that it does. That's right in the interface of the core of Kentico Xperience. And unlike other search tools that you kind of like bolt in or you have to add in other things, Kentico Xperience's integration is already all there. It's been there actually for 3 years plus, so it's a mature integration. We've used it in a couple very large client sites, and there's those benefits we talked about earlier. You get the performance increase of not having to have the search index running on your local Kentico Xperience sites. It's using the cloud to power that search. And what, again, makes it a first-class integration is that the minute that a content person updates a page of content or edits one or archives one, there is the automatic search task that happens in the Xperience platform to go tell the Azure Search Index, hey, I've got an update. So it pushes an update task. It keeps that index up to date with every interaction that you do in the admin tool. And you as a developer or a partner, you don't need to worry about doing that work. So it gets the data up there automatically. It keeps it updated. It's fully configurable right out of the box, right? And then the only responsibility you have as the Kentico Xperience client or end developer is to create the front end aspect of what does the search result look like that matches your MVC and now .NET Core MVC website layer that we call, in the Kentico Xperience world, we call that the live site. So you have to kind of build the facets on the left, but the good thing is the facets can be retrieved right from the Azure Search response of your search results. And this is a key advantage that Kentico Xperience has, is that the dynamic facets that Azure Search gives us, you can make very rich, robust user interfaces that make it look really nice. I mean, you toggle 2 facets to check a filter and narrow down your results. The number of results come back with it immediately. So that comes from, again, the power of the cloud search, and you don't have to worry about it. So it's refreshing to not have to kind of build a lot of that on your own, and give end customers an experience that they like, and that performs well. So that's why I think it's a pretty amazing tool.
I appreciate that. That's really great to hear. And I think that's, just that whole idea of the faceted, the being able to filter down effectively, that just goes back to what we were just talking about, the AI. If you can understand, extract out more information about the original content, providing that as extra information for navigation just allows people to find what they're looking for way more effectively. So I think that's a great example of the application, not only of facets, but maybe even AI as well.
And then there's 2 other common things that we're seeing in the Kentico Xperience world in terms of federated search. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy this technology as well. We've got a couple clients who have more than one thing that they want to search. Maybe it's more than one website. Maybe it's an internal intranet and a public website. Maybe it's 5 public websites. You can actually kind of define multiple indexes and bring in information from multiple sources and then get all of that out in one search results experience. So the customers we've been able to do federated search for have really enjoyed the capability. And again, that's not something you can quite do really. I mean, there might be a way to do it with the standard smart search inside of Kentico Xperience, but not as elegant as it is with the cognitive search in Azure. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is something we didn't quite talk about, but the fact that you can actually help your content administrators out, saving them time with like tagging because of the keyword extraction ability that Azure Cognitive Search has. And we're exploring this more and more with the Kentico Xperience team and with our clients, that, hey, I've got a paragraph of text or 10 paragraphs of text. And instead of figuring out what should I tag this content is, I can pass that to a service in the Azure platform, and it's going to give me back the automatically generated, it's apples, oranges, and hot dogs, as we've talked about in this term. So you can use that as a double check, or you can just directly put that right in the document tags field that Kentico Xperience has, and you're kind of off and running. So we didn't have a ton of time to talk about that. Keyword extraction, that's more AI at work and more reasons to leverage the platform.
Yeah. I fully agree. Keyword extraction is such an amazing and simple thing to add to the solution. But people are even going further where, a keyword or phrase or term is really interesting. But sometimes, like if I'm in medical, tell me what are the signs, the symptoms, the treatments that are being mentioned in that. Or if I'm looking at maybe more of, a product page, tell me the different product names that were listed, the product types, etc. Just being able to extract out very specific pieces of information, just like you said, just saves that effort of manual taking and helps you bring up more potential information. Such a great example.
Thanks. Well, Liam, we're coming up at our time here, and we're supposed to leave a couple minutes for questions. So we want to make sure we do that. But I do want to know, or let our audience know, if they want to know more about Azure Cognitive Search or just in general Azure, what are some resources maybe you want to point them at, or maybe how could they get a hold of you if they have a direct question?
Yeah, absolutely. I will first would love to hear from people. One way I do have through Twitter, LiamCA is one way you can interact with me. LiamCA is also my email address, so it's liamca@microsoft.com, which you can always feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or you want to learn more. But more just for reading up and learning, we have through Azure.com a lot of documentation. So if you do a search for Azure Cognitive Search documentation, we have huge amounts of information, whether it's documentation, tutorials, videos. We have templates and other accelerators to help you get started. So that is probably the best resource to go to learn more. And I hope you do, or I hope that you reach out to myself and hopefully Brian as well to learn more.
Well, thanks, Liam. Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, I think a lot of people know that, but you can email me at brian@bizstream.com. My Twitter handle is McBeeve, and I run a blog about Kentico Experience at McBeeve.com. So really, Liam, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. It's a great session. For those listening, if you have any questions about maybe why you should use this technology, look up those resources that we just mentioned. And, hopefully you've left this session knowing that there is a great way to do AI-powered cloud search for your Kentico Experience website.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.